Well, first, I'd like to do something a little different. I would like to take a moment to recognize different ones of the congregation. Mike Tilson, okay, and Geraldine, Sandy and Diane, and the other, and Tina, ladies in the kitchen, people behind the scene, you might say, that devote their time, and they're here every week, and they give of themselves that you don't see. We thank you and we appreciate that. Today's Parashot, BeHar. And it's Leviticus 25. I'm not going to read it. I hope you've already read it. I'm going to go over some of it. But it speaks of 6 years and seventh year, the seventh year of the Shemitah, Shabbat. And then it speaks of the 50th year, the Yovel, the year of Jubilee. But if you go back to Exodus 21, it gives a little bit there also. If you buy a Hebrew slave, he shall serve for 6 years, but on the seventh he shall go free without payment. So it's kind of canceling the debt for the Hebrew. But in Leviticus 25, it tells that Adonai spoke to Moshe. Tell the people that you are to sow your field, trim your vineyards, gather its produce for 6 years. But the seventh year is a Shemitah, a Shabbat, a rest for the land and for you. What it grows of its own is to be food for you, your servants, your maids, your employee, your livestock, and wild animals of your land and your field, and anyone living near you. In verses 8 through 13, you're to count 7 Shabbats of years, 7 Shemitahs of years. 7 times 7 years equals 49 years. And then on the 10th day of the 7th month, on Yom Kippur, you're to sound the shofar throughout all your land. You are to consecrate the 50th year, or you are to set it apart, to make it holy, proclaim freedom throughout the land and to all its inhabitants. It is a Yovel, a year of Jubilee. Everyone is to return to the land he owns. In verses 14 through 17, you are to be fair in all your dealings. You are not to exploit or cheat anyone. If you buy land, you are to take into account the number of years after the Yovel and until the next Yovel. And the price is according to the number of years that crops will be raised. Here today, we would call it renting the land. We wouldn't be buying it, we'd call it renting the land. And for the next Yovel, it reverts back to the original owner. If a lot of years are left, it would be a higher price. If years are left, a lower price. Once again, you are not to take advantage of each other. You are to fear Adonai, your God. Leviticus 25, 18 through 24. You are to keep my regulations and rulings and act accordingly. If you do not, if you do, you will live securely in the land. The land will yield its produce, and you will eat until you have enough. And you will live there securely. If you ask, if we aren't allowed to sow seed or harvest what our land produces, what will we eat in the 7th year? And Adonai says, I will order my blessings on you during the 6th year, so that the land will bring forth enough produce for all 3 years. On the 8th year, so that 7th year you will not sow. The 8th year you will sow seed. But you will eat the old, stored produce until the 9th year, until the crop comes in on the 9th year. That is, until the produce of the 8th year comes in. The land must not be sold permanently, because the land belongs to me, and you are only foreigners and temporary residents with me. Therefore, when you sell your property, you must include the right of redemption. Well, this would be a different world if we had that right of redemption today. We would do business completely and totally different here in the United States. All of us want to live securely and in safety. And owning our own home or property, to our way of thinking, today is one way to achieve that. But look at how different this is. Look at what Adonai is asking. He's saying we must rely completely and totally on him. He actually owns it. We are just using it, hopefully for his glory, as we are passing through. Verse 25 through 28, your next of kin can buy it back or redeem it. Your brother, your uncle, his son, which would be your cousin, or if you come into some money, you can redeem it according to selling price and number of years remaining to the next Yovel. Excuse me. However, if neither you nor your next of kin can buy it back, thank God, it reverts back to the original owner in the year of Yovel. So you would get your land back in the year of Jubilee. Verse 29 through 31. If you sell a house in a walled city, the regulations are slightly different. You have 1 year to buy it back, or the sale is permanent. Houses in villages without walls are to be dealt with just like fields or the land. Verse 32 through 34, Leviim, or Levites, have permanent rights of redemption, or it will revert to him or them in the Yovel year. The fields in the open land around the Levite cities may not be sold, because that is their permanent possession. Verse 35 through 38, if a member of your people becomes poor so that he cannot support himself, you are to assist him as you would a foreigner or a temporary resident, so that he can continue living with you. Do not charge the poor interest or otherwise profit from him. Far different from today, huh? Everything's about profit. Everything's about putting money in the pocket. But fear Adonai your God. Fear Adonai your God, so that your poor brother can continue living with you. Do not take interest when you loan him money, or take a profit when you sell him food. I am Adonai your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt in order to give you the land of Canaan and be your God. Verse 39 through 42, do not make your brother do the work of a slave. Treat your brother like an employee. He is to go back free to his own land in the year of Yovel. Do not treat your brother harshly, but fear your God. 44 through 46, you can buy slaves from nations around you and can bequeath them to your children. We kind of frown upon that today. But as for your brothers of Israel, you are not to treat each other harshly. Verse 47 through 54, if your brother sells himself to a foreigner, his next of kin can redeem him. If he has not been redeemed, he will go free in the year of Yovel, and his children with him. Thank God for the Jubilee. Verse 55, for to me the people of Israel are slaves. They are my slaves, whom I brought out of the land of Egypt. I am Adonai your God. In chapter 26, 1 and 2, you're not to make any idols, carve statues, or standing stones anywhere in your land in order to bow down to them. I am Adonai, your God. Keep my Shabbats, revere my sanctuary. I am Adonai. Here in the book of Leviticus, in the laws of the Shemitah and the Yovel, we are not even in the land. What does that have to do with us today? The lesson to walk away with is one which keeps repeating in the Parashot. Treat everyone fairly in all your dealings. Do not treat your brother harshly. Don't take advantage of one another. Don't exploit or cheat anyone. And always include the right of redemption. Remember, you were slaves in the land of Egypt, where I brought you out from. You're to deal with the poor in a special way. You are to remember you are my slaves, says Adonai. And there is a story for all to see. Right here in the middle of this parashah and throughout the Torah. It is the right of redemption. Adonai spelled it out over and over again because he wants us to understand. He wants us to know he has the right of redemption for us. He had a plan of redemption from before Genesis 1:1. He knew he would send his son, and praise be to Adonai. God has redeemed us through the blood of Yeshua.
Okay, thank you, Ron, for covering Torah for us. And it's good to have our Messianic pastors, John and Batya, back with us. Right in time. You got it on? You're off. Okay. Okay, today I'm going to be covering Haftarah, and it's about Jeremiah, the book of Jeremiah. And first, the prophets. Here in the modern day, who are the prophets of today? Well, thinking about it, we've got financial prophets, we've got stock market prophets. They go and tell you where your finances are going to go. The stock market prophets tell you they think they know where the stock market is going to come to in the future, the Dow Jones, what the number is going to be, 21,000 or what have you. There's sports prophets. sports prophets, for different sports, baseball prophets, they can tell you who's going to be in the World Series. Football prophets, they can tell you the two teams that are going to be in the Super Bowl and what the final score is going to be. And horse racing, there's prophets in that can tell you who the winner of the big horse races are going to be. For instance, one of the horse racing prophets, he did correctly say who was going to win the Kentucky Derby. He did correctly say who was going to win the Preakness, but he was wrong when he gave that same horse to win the Triple Crown. It lost in the Belmont. So these modern day prophets, they aren't 100%. And how about the religious prophets of today? And there's many of them around. For instance, in 1984, one of the religious prophets said, and he knew that Jesus, that Yeshua was going to be returning, and this would be an endpoint of modern society, modern technology, 1984. And did he return then? I didn't see him. I don't think the rest of the world did. Then in the year 2000, other religious prophets thought for sure the world was going to end, that Messiah was going to return. The year 2000, the computers were going to stop. All of the electricity was going to turn off over the earth. And for sure, he would return, bring his light to all of us. And the year 2012 midnight, it came and it went. The lights were still on. The computers the next day still worked. But our Lord didn't return at that point. And then a little bit more recently, another religious prophet said in 2012, it was the time because it was 2,000 years since Yeshua was on earth, since Jesus Christ was on earth, and that little leeway of the 12 years for everything to be set up, for the cloud to be ready, for everyone to return to him, go up in the sky, and the Armageddon was going to start. The big major last battle of the world was to take place. This religious prophet went and took his congregation and they headed for the hills. They evacuated. They took their supplies with them and they went up to the hills and they waited. And 2013 came around and no Armageddon, no Jesus Christ. Yep, it didn't happen. So all of the modern prophets are not 100%. And we've got a term for that. They're called false prophets. The true prophet is the prophet that hears and is given the signs and the messages from Adonai, from the Lord God, and he is 100% correct, and those things do happen. Well, going into Jeremiah, the prophet chosen by Adonai, and remember that as his beginnings, this was at chapter 1, and I'll read this. Here is the word of Adonai that comes to me. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I separated you for myself. I have appointed you to be a prophet to the nations. I said, "Oh, Adonai Elohim, I don't even know how to speak. I'm just a child." But Adonai said to me, "Don't say, I am just a child, for you will go to whomever I send you, and you will speak whatever I order you. Do not be afraid of them, for I am with you, says Adonai, to rescue you." Then Adonai put his hand and touched my mouth. He touched the mouth of Jeremiah. And Adonai said to me, "There, I have put my words in your mouth. Today I have placed you over nations and kingdoms, to uproot and to tear down, to destroy and to demolish, to build and to plant." One of the Haftorahs of today, Mouse, as he was reading the Haftorah, he read the Haftorah Jeremiah from chapter 16, and today I'm going to cover Jeremiah chapter 32. Now Jeremiah receives the words from Adonai, telling him that Hanamel, the son of your uncle Shalom, will approach you and ask you to buy his field at Anatot. Since you have next of kin rights to redeem it. Ron just spoke from Leviticus about the next of kin rights kept in the family and kept the land in the family. So Adonai tells Jeremiah, "So buy it." Just as Adonai's words state, the actions truly then take place. Hanamel comes to the guard's quarters to sell the field. It's located at Anatot in the territory of Benjamin. It is an inheritance. This certifies that Adonai's word is true. So as Adonai told Jeremiah, these things would take place. As I said before, a true prophet, 100% comes true. The next moment, here he comes, Hanamel, to sell this field. So Jeremiah weighs out the 7 ounces of silver shekels and buys the field. With the witnesses watching, he takes the purchase contract and gives it to Baruch, the son of Neriah, the son of Machseiah. The prime witness was the seller, Hanamel. Adonai gives Jeremiah the words of more instructions that are prophetic for the people of Israel, and what this future will turn out to be. Listen to what Adonai relates. He tells Jeremiah that Baruch has a place of something to do. He says, take these contracts, both sealed and unsealed copies, and place them in a clay jar so that they can be preserved for a long time. For Adonai Sevaot, the God of Israel, says that one day homes, fields, and vineyards will again be bought in this land. After giving the contracts to Baruch, Jeremiah prays to Adonai. Adonai God, you made heaven and earth by your great power and outstretched arm. Nothing is too hard for you. You displayed your grace to thousands, but also repaid the guilt of the fathers into the laps of their children who followed them. Great, powerful God, whose name is Adonai Sevaot, great in counsel, mighty in deed. Your eyes are open to all the ways of human beings in order to repay each one according to his ways, according to the consequences of what he does. Jeremiah's prayer brings out the signs and the miracles that Adonai brought to the people of Israel. He brought them out of the land of Egypt, and he gave them a land flowing with milk and honey. Yet, with all of the good that Adonai had done for the people of Israel, Jeremiah states it this way: they entered and took possessions of it, but they did not pay attention to your voice and did not live according to your Torah, and did nothing of all you ordered them to do. Therefore, you made this complete disaster befall them. The siege, the works are already there. They have come to the city to capture it, and the city, by means of sword, famine, and plague, is being handed over to the Kasdim, the Babylonians. They are fighting against us. This was the fall of the people of Israel. They had the land. God had done all the miracles and brought them to this land of milk and honey, yet after a period of time, they turned back away from God. They moved back to idols, false gods, and looked away and did not keep his rulings, his Torah. Yet what Adonai has foretold is being fulfilled. Adonai fulfills as he says. Adonai had told Jeremiah to buy the field for money and call witnesses to see, even though the city was being turned over to the Babylonians. Something is going to come about from all this. in conclusion, our God, Adonai, is a God full of love and compassion. He will bring back and restore the people and the land as the people mend their ways. He looks to return. He has compassion on all of us. He wants us to return to Him and mend our ways and repent. Then this word of Adonai comes to Jeremiah. Look, I am Adonai, the God of every living creature. Is there anything too hard for me? Every time I read this book of Jeremiah, it states so many times about the word of Adonai. And this seems to bring to my mind, I like to remember the verses of the book John in chapter 1. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was with God in the beginning. All things came to be through Him, and without Him nothing made had being. In Him was life, and the life was the light of mankind. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not suppressed it. As we think of this, and we think of Messiah, who has come and is the light, and any darkness of this world, any of the enemy that brings it upon us, Adonai, our Lord Yeshua, is there to deal, remove, and add light to all of us. So I repeat the question, is there anything too hard for me, our Lord Yeshua? There is nothing too hard for Him. So in conclusion of Jeremiah and the prophets, I'd like to talk a little now about decisions that we make and so forth. And I know that the last message that Mouse talked about, he talked some about decisions in that. And not too long ago, I was listening to a radio program. It was the Dennis Prager show, and he has some very interesting talk on his show. And he was talking about decisions in today's times. Now, many people today think that their environment makes decisions for their lives. And others think that government makes decisions for their lives. You have to look at some of the factors of this, such as what they see on their computers, what there is in television, their location of home and their location of work, the place that they're in their daily life, and just where they find themselves. These people have the belief that they are out of control in decisions. Now think of this. God has given us free will of making decisions in our lives. From the Torah, Deuteronomy, chapter 11, see, I am setting before you today a blessing and a curse. The blessing, if you listen to the mitzvot of Adonai, your God, that I am giving you today, and the curse, if you don't listen to the mitzvot of Adonai, your God. The decision, the choice of choosing the blessings of God, the good, versus choosing the bad, the curses, they're out there in front of us. God has given us decisions, and we need to make the right one. Dennis Prager points out that life is decisions, choices that we make. People have to come to the realization that they can make a choice to be happy in life. Even though the environment or the politics may be troublesome and gloomy, what is your decision? And we'll pray today. Adonai, thank you so much for this time, for Ron and I to lead forth your word to the congregation. Lord, we just open up to you. We look for your blessings that you provide for us, Lord. And we thank you and praise you for Messiah Yeshua forever and ever. Amen.